Hello, and welcome to the Reset Podcast. I am your host, Lauren Mignot, CEO of the experience agency D-Flash. This is part of my 29 Days of Magic series, where I basically get to interview a phenomenal Black woman every single day for the month of February, Black History Month. And this week's episode is no different. I'm having a great conversation with Dupe Ajayi, who's an intersectional marketing strategist. So we'll get into what that all means, how she got there, and her journey along the way. It's going to be a great conversation. Take a listen. Hi, Dupe.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
Good. Cranking through these interviews.
I know. I know. I've been so inspired by, everybody's stories. So to have the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with you is incredible. I'm really grateful to be here.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I didn't know what this project was going to be when I first came up with the idea, and It's been remarkably rewarding just getting to hear lots of stories from women I did know, maybe not in person, or people I did know and didn't know their whole story, and just new people who just kind of fallen into my lap along the way. So I'm so excited by the journey of doing this, and so I'm also tired.
Yeah. I feel you. I know. Believe me.
But you've been listening to the episodes, so you probably know the format already. First question is always the same, always excited by the answers. I'm sure you'll be no different. So Dupe, what was your first job?
Oh my gosh. So my first job was at a tennis camp. I was in this program here in New York called Summer Youth Employment Program. It was out of the Department of Youth and Community Development. And basically what it does, it gives 14 to 24-year-olds an opportunity to work someplace. And because they don't have experience, right, it's a good opportunity for them to just be kind of cast out into the world and gain experience in different settings. So some people got office jobs, some people worked in daycare centers. I was cast into a tennis camp. Now, at this point, your girl knew nothing about tennis. I had never picked up a racket.
What's a racket?
I'm telling you, like, I was an inner city, girl, grew up in Brownsville, Brooklyn. And, that was my first time being on a tennis court, period. And so it was my job to teach children how to play tennis. And all we had was this instructor who he probably is our age now or my age now when I think about it, and he gave me a quick 1, 2, 3 tutorial, and then I was responsible for helping to teach these kids how to play. And
okay,
yeah, and the good thing is because they were children, they didn't know any better. They didn't know I sucked, right?
Well, hey, listen, teach the babies.
They didn't know, but when I tell you, that was where and when and how I grew to love tennis. So I then became obsessed with the sport. I learned more about the sport. In high school, I started playing tennis. During gym class, we had a selection where that was one of the things that you could choose. And I almost always chose that. And, to this day, like I go to the US Open every year. I follow tennis closely, but it sprouted in me the love for tennis. And who knew, I had never imagined that I would be picking up a tennis racket. I knew nothing about it. And it was probably one of the best experiences that I could have fallen into.
Awesome. I too am a lover of tennis, and I try and get to the U.S. Open every year. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And you're right. There's something really beautiful about this sport, and and to watch it and to play it. It's so good. I have a terrible backhand, but I have a very good forehand. Kind of a lefty.
Yeah, and people don't realize. I don't remember which. I was listening to an interview recently with an artist. I think it was Selena Johnson. And Selena Johnson is an overall athlete. Like, a lot of people didn't know that about her, but she was saying that, tennis was one of the sports she used to play in high school. And they, Charlamagne asked her, he said, well, why did you stop? And she said, that shit is hard. She's, people don't, it is probably one of the, it's one of the toughest sports to play. It's good cardio. When you're done playing, you know that you worked out.
Yes.
So You know, it's really a beautiful thing, and like you said, exactly, like watching it is amazing. It's like you could hear a pin drop on a carpet. It's you know, super quiet. It's just beautiful, and you know, and it grew me into a lover of the sport for sure.
It's so good, and obviously I love the Williams sisters in my family. So I feel you here. So how
Mhm.
do we get to be having this conversation? Like, what is it you do?
Ah, the
How'd you get
question of the
there?
hour. So, you know, it's a really funny, a really interesting story. The, you know, we're all part of these Facebook groups, right? And I'm in this group where it's Black women who tech. And, um, for in the previous 2 years, so I'd say from 2018 to, you know, a little bit past 2019, not even 2017 about, I, you know, really was on the trajectory to go into tech. It was something that I, you know, was really obsessed with, that I had loved. I am a marketer by trade. That's what I do. I started out in television, and you know, I realized very early that being a good communications professional, you have to be a good marketer to kind of go hand in hand. And I can sell anything. I've been that way since I was a child. So I'm in this group, and in 1 month, this was in 2018, I believe, I had gone, you know, out to the Bay Area and interviewed at two of our, you know, these companies. They are quite big, recognizable, in the same month. And in the same month, I got rejections from both. And this is unheard of. Number one, a woman of color in the same month being invited to these two really well-known companies that have a problem with uh, diversity, period. It was unheard of, but it was a manifestation of one of the things that I'd always wanted to do. And so I kind of had to, at the end of that year, just reassess. Someone in one of these groups, she tagged me in this post. I've never met this woman, but we would talk back and forth in this, you know, group. And she said, you know, Dupe, I think this would be for you. This is good for you, because people knew that I was obsessed with social impact. I still am. Marketing for good is something that I adore. Um, and years ago, I had mentioned, I don't know, you know, maybe I'd do something in the art space, or if I did do, you know, got into tech, it would have to be in social impact in some way. And so she tagged me in this position, and it was for a place called The Shed. And I was like, what the hell is The Shed? What is this? Um, and so anyway, I clicked on the website, and the website is very similar to what we see today. And I still didn't have a clear sense of what it was. The thing that interested me was that it was two things. One, they were newly commissioning pieces to show in this brand new space, which is located in Hudson Yards. The space itself, it has a retractable roof. It's built on city-owned land, so in the midst of the shining jewel, controversial jewel, which is Hudson Yards. And that was interesting to me because I'd formerly worked in city government, leading digital strategy for the Housing Authority for a few years. And then the other component was that this person's job was going to be to bring people who don't feel comfortable into art spaces, who may not know that they're welcome in spaces, into these spaces. And I said, well, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I can get with that. And so I went through the process of interviewing, and I just kept moving up and up and up. And you know, I have the opportunity to build out this program, which, you know, is engaging intersectional audiences to get them to come into the doors. Like right now, you know, if you look at Broadway stats, you'll see, or even, you know, those who visit arts and cultural centers, you'll see we're at about 2% when it comes to diversity with coming to visit these places. And that's nationwide. New York does exceptionally well when it comes to the likes of like the Brooklyn Museum, for example. But still, when you look at the Guggenheim or MoMA or the Met or Broadway, as I mentioned, if it's not an effort put forth to get us into the doors, we don't come. And, that resonated with me. It is this whole idea that, well, am I going to feel comfortable in this space? Or will I be under the white gaze in this space? Is it for me? And my whole thing, through everything that we put out, every marketing piece that we put out, it is looking at it through the lens of, an intersectional marketer. And it is an absolute pleasure to be able to do that. One of the programs that I've built is a ticket access program. And that's where, free or discounted tickets to the institution. Right now, NYCHA residents, all New York City Housing Authority residents, they come to the shed for free.
Wow.
All CUNY, all CUNY students come to the shed for free. So those are the first two agencies that I looked at, having my experience, like I said, having worked with NYC, where I went back and said, I want to make it so that if you live in NYCHA, you get to come to this space for free. And when I tell you, it has been super rewarding. I have had NYCHA residents, at a great day in Harlem, we're out doing a table or a tent, and they come up and they're like, I know the shed. And I'm like, what you know about the shed? Tell me. Oh my gosh, I get tickets. I get to go there for free with my grandson. And that makes me so pleased, right? Because she may not feel that this sparkling jewel, this place, this fancy schmancy place, with, the names and likes of, certain folks, rich white men, are etched into stone in the walls. She may not feel that this space is for her. And, I like the disruption of that. I like, having people from all over the city come into that space and be reflective of what the city actually is about. So that's my journey. That's how I got there, girl. I mean, I don't know. I still sometimes am like, what?
How am I here? What?
How the hell? How the hell did this happen? But literally, it was like, what is a shed? Who? And this is how it went down. I literally was on the way to, I was considering moving to California, and I just was pivoted. The universe is funny.
Yeah, well, the universe is interesting because it's like when you least expect it, it drops something in your lap, and you're like, "Wait, what?" And then you're
exactly.
but then you're like, "Wait, actually, this is awesome."
I'm like, oh, okay. I wasn't expecting salmon, but I'll take it.
Yeah. It's like, okay,
so,
that's what we're gonna be doing now.
Exactly,
All right.
exactly. It has been such a blessing. And it's challenging. I mean, you have the art space is extremely white, right? There's very little diversity in some of these spaces, and on top of that, there are other things like classism, that are placed there. But I'm lucky because there are so many of my colleagues that actually get it, and what's at the very mission, or what's at the heart and soul of the mission of the shed is, all art for all people, right? And even I have to constantly. Now, when we get too far off of this, when my colleagues go into, well, at the Met or at MoMA or at this place or at that place, I always have to remind them, well, at the Met or at MoMA or this place or that place, it was how many attended? What was the attendance looking like when it came to diversity and inclusion?
Well, exactly.
So
how about
we got to do something different.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I think oftentimes this is it's a huge issue because people sometimes don't feel welcome in these spaces, and
yes,
it's my day job designing spaces and feel welcome.
Yes.
And so the fact that you're able to do this at the shed, like I had no idea this is what's available. Who knows? But
exactly.
Because one, we're putting this all in the show notes, and I'll shout it out in the descriptor of your episode.
Of course.
Because I think, knowledge is always power. I mean, the thing that I find so interesting about New York City that continues to excite me is there are always new programs that are available for people if someone would just tell
Hmm.
them. Like, uh,
Hello.
we're just
Absolutely.
and it's from arts programs from different types of museums that are welcoming to all types of
Hmm.
communities and levels of ability. There are things available, and we are very lucky and blessed to be in a city
Hmm.
that actually can do that sort of thing. So it's just so very
Absolutely.
important, and I'm sure the response has been phenomenal.
So that's the thing, right? So I've been in this role I started, it'll soon be 1 year. I cannot believe it. What a year it's been,
Oh
in
wow!
April of this year. Um, but here's the thing is, and the shed opened in April of last year. So it opened April 5th. And I started on April 29th. So it is very much a startup. It
Oh my
operates just
gosh!
like a startup. Yeah, yes, yes, girl. We've been building it as we go. And you know, the thing about it is that exactly your point is that um, there's so much going on. So having to break through that noise, and then on top of that, like answering the question, is this for me? And that's another layer that oftentimes this, that as marketers, that people just don't look at. They think that if you build it, they will come, and that's not true, right? You know that probably better than anybody. If you build it, it doesn't mean that somebody's going to come. It really is like, well, what's in it for me? How am I going to feel when I get there? What will the experience be like from the beginning to end? And I'm constantly thinking about how do we create experiences where folk are going to feel comfortable. And so we are actually preparing for one of our upcoming programs, doing a blackout night. The whole theme of blackout started. I don't know if have you ever heard of this phenomena of blackout?
No, what is it?
If you haven't. Okay, so basically with Slave Play, the creator, he wanted to create a space where we could experience the work away from the white gaze. These are his words.
Mhm.
And you've seen this happen before, and you know this, you've experienced it, right? Like if you probably saw Get Out more than once. And if you saw it, right, we all did, and you had a different experience when you saw Get Out in one theater than you did at the other. If you saw it at the Magic Johnson Theater, it was different than if you saw it in Park Slope, right? And
Yes.
so the idea is creating that was happening organically. And so now creators are looking at, well, how can we be intentional about this, creating space for folks so that they feel comfortable, viewing a work and then also reacting and chatting back about what it is that they experienced. And so that, for example, we have an upcoming work by an author, a poet, playwright. Her name is Claudia Rankin, and she wanted to know what white men thought about their privilege or how they felt about their privilege, and so she asked them. And yeah, she asked them. And so this is what this work is about. And needless to say, i- i- how I experience it, how you experience this work as women of color, as Black women, is going to be different than how a white woman, would experience the work. And that's okay. But we're creating the space for these conversations to continue on beyond the work. I mention all of that because that's just one marketing component, right? That's one tactic where it's like we're being very intentional and putting the
Mhm.
energy behind doing something outside of, hey, we're doing this play, come, right? And I'm always thinking about what are the ways, what are other ways, when it comes to not only just us people of color, but when it comes to engaging seniors, or when it comes to people who have physical disabilities or emotional disabilities. What are the ways that we can be doing a better job of making sure that we are living towards this mission? And like I said, it's been a year, girl. So we all see. So far, over 4,000 people have come to the shed for free or low cost. And we haven't hit year one. My goal is for us to do at least triple that in this next coming year. And so we'll see.
Yeah, but it's so important that you do this because I think, as a kid growing up and going to museums, because I grew up on Long Island, and and then having like our field trip day into the city to go to the
Uh-huh.
museum, like it meant so much to a very shy, awkward kid like yours truly.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I want, and
Same.
it's interesting because, like, I think oftentimes what privilege looks like. Okay, so I grew up on Long Island, so I went to private school, and so of course it's a degree of privilege there.
Yes.
But there is something about the fact that, like, there are some things where you couldn't leave Long Island, and the ability to actually go somewhere
Yep.
else and experience something else
Yes.
just means more. Even because I think I was talking to someone recently about this, about what it means to be more. Um,
Uh-huh.
and,
Wow.
and
Wow.
because it instills in you that there's so much more you can be when you see more of it.
Mm.
And so when you can
Mm.
see more of the city, you can see, more kinds of performances. I can't even begin to quantify what it must mean for young kids who are told they're not that great because they live in NYCHA housing, and they get to come in the
Totally.
shed. They get to come in the shed
Totally.
and walk through that insane mall and see the giant vessel and see what's possible
Yes.
and see what's more
Yes.
than what their circumstances today could change where you can be tomorrow. I think that it's just phenomenal. And yeah, I'm all about helping get to that triple number because this is so very important.
It just, it's everything. And same, right? Like same. Like I mean, growing up, like my dad, I was already considered odd, right? Like, what's a Dupe Ajayi? What is that?
Right.
Well, who is that? And this is before, Africanness was cool in New York City. And even New York being so diverse, it's before, to be Nigerian was cool. And I remember just my parents being very intentional about outside experiences. So, taking me, you're absolutely right, like going to the museum, and I knew what soccer was or football was before it was a big deal here. We listened to African music in my house, and I ate African food before it was, on trend. And sometimes that differentness would it isolated you. It's kind of like, what? And so I really, really love to this day having the experience of being in the arts and being around it, and I find solace in it. And that is a gift that I feel obligated to give to, those who may not feel access or feel like, oh my gosh, this is just like you said, this is my world and this is all that I have. And it's like when you step outside of that, you see how um, the possibility and how wondrous things can really be. And my life is kind of a testament to that. Like, I'm, it's like, what are you doing here? But we always do, right? We always find a way. And so it is a pleasure for me to be able to say, okay, I would love it if all NYCHA residents really took advantage of the offer, then I would go through all the tickets that I had, right? Because there's over 600,000 NYCHA residents, right? And so it is the North Star, and it is getting them to see, that no, you are welcome here in this fancy, brand new building that was just built. No, it was built for you. And I'm able to do so with such passion because I understand it, just like you said, I was that kid. So we're gonna see, Laura. We're gonna see. And my hair gonna be white by the end.
Well, yeah. Look, but it's a thing. It's the knowledge is power, and letting more and more folks know that it's available. Does this also work with the New York City ID as well?
It does. So one of
Okay.
the programs that I put into place, outside of making sure that NYCHA residents and CUNY students come for free, we squeaked in there at the end of the year, and we are one of the newer partners, along with the likes of the Apollo, which it is an honor, and the Met and the Whitney. They've been around for a while. It's good to see that they're now on board. But you can use your New York City ID to come into the shed as well and get a membership, 1 year membership,
For free.
to come in. And there's a host of things that they get. Absolutely. Yep.
Wow. Okay. So not only are you able to help NYCHA residents, but basically anyone who's at New York City ID, which I believe has become quite popular. uh,
I
so
know, I know.
it's like,
I don't
okay,
have mine though, Lord. Do
what?
you have your?
Of
Oh,
course I do.
please
Oh,
don't. I
please.
know I'm a hypocrite. I'm a hypocrite. I was working at the library before I came to the shed, right? And mind you, I was there for 2 years, and there was an ID NYC sign up right
Hmm.
downstairs in the lobby. And did I ever go downstairs
No,
inside? No.
girl. You know
I'm gonna
why?
do it. I'm gonna do it.
Here's why. Here's honestly why it's the coolest thing. Cause like, I'm
Okay.
sure you know this. Like, there are some days where you're like, I need to walk out and go walk around the museum and look at art. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and not look at my phone for like a good hour.
Yeah.
And it is
Yeah.
one of my kind of nice treats to myself that I can like hop in the
Mm.
subway, go to MoMA, show my stupid new
Yeah.
ID, and then go to MoMA and not to pay anything. Like
Yeah.
it is a very nice piece of like self care and just like you get something. It is a beautiful thing. Like, our city has so much amazing stuff to offer, and we just don't take advantage of it because we're so
We
busy.
don't.
And
We
so,
don't.
like when I got it, I was like, you know what? And I haven't done it in like 6 or 7 months, but it's a thing that I try and do. Like just spend a Sunday going to one museum and just sort of and
Yeah.
taking the time to do it because we often are so busy that we forget beauty
Yes.
and like there's so much beauty within the city. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not painful at all. Literally, you just go sign up, be a picture,
I
and
need to. I'm a hypocrite because I'm at the yes, and I need to. And you're absolutely right. Is that I need to. For my goal is definitely I need to do it before we get into the spring because you're right. Like I find myself. That's where I get comfort is by saying, okay, let me go ahead on and let me do this today. You know what I mean? And I love that. So far, we've had. Let me see. We've had a heavy interest from IDNYC members. We've accepted a good amount of people, and we're only in the first 2 months of the year. We had people. We had an open house event. At the top of January, and we had people come with their ID and say, "Hey, I want to sign up today." Like people were chomping at the bit to become members, and so there's so much value in that. And what I love is that again, like this card is you don't know who it could be, right? So it could be anybody from Laura to somebody who may not be documented, to somebody who has very little, to somebody who has much, and we all are under the same ID. You can't tell anything. The ID looks exactly the same, which is at the heart of the program, right? So,
democratize it.
absolutely, absolutely. So, girl, I'm gonna sign up. I'm gonna sign up.
See, there we go. As one does. Because you got to.
Let me add that to my list right now.
Good. So you're at the shed doing really incredible and like yeoman's work to make this happen. What's been a challenge along the way in your career that you've been like, oh my god, and how have you been able to get through it?
Wow. So, I've kind of, it's interesting because there have been a lot of ebbs and flows, ups and downs. I feel like now I'm just hitting my stride. I had, this breakout career very early on, working in communications and television. I was very blessed, very lucky. But New York was a different New York then too, where I created space for myself and said, hey, oh, I want to work at MTV. Great, I can. And that was really exciting for me. I would say that before landing with NYC, or even after NYC, after I left NYCHA, excuse me, it was really interesting because the landscape was changing, politics were changing, and being a woman of color and applying for jobs and having to rely heavily on networks, it taught me a lot about if there aren't opportunities, creating opportunities for yourself. And it also taught me about even once you get into a door, um, continuing to create opportunities for yourself. So, I'll use the example. I mean, there were a lots of consultancy experiences that I had after working with NYC, where I had the luxury, or I knew that these people that I was working with, I was like, man, oh, that's what that is. Now we have terminology for it, such as microaggression, but who knew? It was like, what are we experiencing here? Or, if you're a woman at the table and you're bringing your ideas, and it's like, well, a white male says the exact same thing, and it's like, oh, that's brilliant. And you're like, wait, what? What's
Mm-hmm.
going on? And um, I would have to say that, in the last couple of years, really learning about my strengths and honing them, honing what I'm good at, standing firm in what I'm good at, without and beyond a shadow of doubt, is one of the hardest lessons, but most rewarding lessons that I've had to learn. I can now say with confidence and move in rooms with confidence, and sit at the table. And if someone says, "Oh, well, I know you mean this, that, the third," I'm like, "No, I meant exactly what I said I meant." And just like standing firm in who I am as a woman has been a journey for me. One of the hardest things that I've had to overcome. And the gift of that, so certain spaces are more welcoming to this. I would have to say, as a marketer, there's a bit more room. It is a blessing that I'm not in tech, because I see a lot of my tech sisters, and this is not to generalize, but I do know that there's less room sometimes for that. Um, I would have to say that in the arts, it's a little more, there is a little more wiggle room with that. And in government, there is definitely more wiggle room within this city of New York, right? When it's like, if the majority of the people that you're serving or working with, New Yorkers are all shapes, sizes, colors, races, and creeds, you can't be, at the table. I rarely experience, and I was telling somebody this, um, at the housing authority, the chief communications officer, one of them under the tenure when I was there, was a white woman, but she would never not listen to the input of somebody on her team who was a person of color. She was a white woman, very privileged. She would never not hear that feedback, because she knew she's not the audience,
Right.
right? She knew her position,
She
and
knew
we
where
would
she
never have.
was.
She knew it, and we would never have these discussions. Meanwhile, it would be, and this is the blessing, right? So working in communications, it was a different dynamic, you know, where it could be questioned about, well, is this what audiences really want? Or even if you are sitting there in your Black body as Black, well, how do you know? It would get questioned. So it's very interesting to me. I would have to say that in the arts there is more freedom as well. Well, at least where I am, in the place that I am. But it's a hard lesson. It is something that the muscle has to constantly be flexed, and that comfort in standing in what and having that confidence and that boldness is something that is constantly, flexed, and I'm constantly growing in. I haven't learned. I don't know everything, and I'm humble about that. But what I do know, I stand in it, right? And that comes with time. I mean, if you're doing that and you're 22, go ahead, sis. But but it's something where, back in the day, I used to be like, well, maybe I don't know, maybe it's incorrect, and it's like you look back on it, oh no, you knew, no, you knew what you were talking about. And that's been the biggest challenge for me, and I feel like I'm still growing in that every day.
Awesome.
Mhm.
So what's next for you? So we know that you're gonna lose all your hair and go
Ooh,
gray, making
uh,
sure that a million kids, 600,000 people come through.
oh,
Understand.
girl.
What other than that?
Oh, what's next? Hmm. So, I mean, I hope that what I'm doing um, is setting an example that can be replicated. Like I always think about, you know, and I tell everybody this, you know, legacies are important to me. Legacies are important to me. They're everything. Um, I don't know why and what that is. I mean, both my mom and dad are no longer here. They passed away when they were both fairly young, and I was young. Um, I have a younger sister who I adore, and I think about we are legacies of them, right? Like I think about like the moves that I've made, and would they be proud, and what I've seen that they never got a chance to see. And for me, that is the ultimate. That's everything. So when I leave this place, what would I have left behind? And I'm in it every day, right? I'm very present. So when the question is asked to me about, well, what do you think? You know, what's next, or what do you think about the next couple of years, girl? When I tell you, I had like I said, what did I tell you? 2 years ago, I had planned. I really did. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to live in the Bay, and da da da. Thank God I didn't. But I was like, you know, this is this at the third, and it didn't pan out that way. You know, it went another way, thankfully. And so, you know, I have an openness to what is going to come next, but I do know this, and that is that the legacy that I'm building through the work that I do and through the person that I am, that will, you know, that will be what's left behind. You know, the conversations when I'm not in the room, that is what is left, you know, behind. And each and every way, each and every touch point, if I can help out, if I can be of service, that's most important to me, and to continue to do that. You know, and when I'm tired, to take a damn break and be like, you know, I gave enough this week, you know, time to relax. You know, I just want to continue to grow at my craft, and, you know, and be as the best. Not as long as I wasn't gonna say excellent, because, you know, I mean, that's a triggering word. But to be as great, you know, as I can be, and for the work to be replicated. You know, I want it to be where in New York City, where it's not abnormal for weird girls of color to come into a space, you know, and be like, make room. You know, I want the room to already be made, you know, for her. And it's second nature for her to feel just as free, you know, as comfortable. And, you know, that's the best way that I can articulate it, you know?
No, it's beautiful, and I think it's a great way to put it. So, what do you do for your self care? Like, because obviously you've got
Yeah.
a super intensely stressful job and a commitment to do what's right. How does Dupe take care of Dupe?
Oh, I have to constantly remind myself. But, you know, I've gotten better. I have. Um, I'm obsessed with a few things. Skincare is one of them.
Awesome.
Laura, no, it's a sickness.
It's a
It
sickness.
really is. There's this website that I love where you can put in the ingredients of like your favorite things, and it'll tell you if the ingredients are triggering and will cause an allergy. When I tell you this, the reason why I love this so is that I love skincare products, and like lotions and creams and masks and balms, and you know, 10 steps. When they're like my 10-step nighttime routine, I'm all about it. Like
You're all about it. Oh
I
boy.
love, you know, toners and oils and that. I really, really do. And it pays off. You know, I saw a friend who I hadn't seen in like 2 or 3 months. I saw them for brunch on Saturday, and I'm like, oh my God. They were like, who are you sleeping with? You're glowing. I was like, no, girl, that's that 10 step. So, you know, like, you know, I just love it. So that's one of the things.
Awesome. Wait, do you listen to the Naked Beauty podcast with Brooke DeMar?
No.
Oh my God. Okay, so if you want the best skincare routine
Yeah.
podcast, it's called the Naked Beauty Podcast, but by Brooke DeMar.
OMG.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
OMG.
Sayyida's Blood's been on it. It's fantastic.
Oh my God. And now you look what you
I
done. Look
You
what you
wait.
done
When
done.
so follow them on Instagram, follow the podcast on Instagram, follow Brooke on Instagram because she's also a partnership director at Instagram, and
Okay.
so she's really good at everything she does. And
I love
but you are gonna
it.
go down such a rabbit hole with her. Trust me.
Okay. Okay. This is what we're all about. This is what we love. This is what
This
we're
is how
all
we
about.
share. This is how we share. This is how
I
we share.
I love, let me tell you, Laura, I love like skincare, especially with being a woman of color. It's like, okay, well,
Exactly.
you have the layer of like, you know, trying to find the right products for yourself. But he's like, okay, well, is my foundation breaking me out? Well, I hope not, because if yeah, there are only like a couple of lines where I can find my shade and da 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 to set the third. And so I'm really obsessed with it. Like if I had the time, I definitely would do like I would definitely become certified as an esthetician. Like I
Oh
definitely would.
wow. Yeah,
That's how obsessed
you do.
I
I
am.
cannot believe you haven't found her before. Like just go. She makes her own scrubs. It's a
Oh,
whole yeah.
oh, okay, I'm on it. So that's one of the things. And also I've gotten into, I really enjoy running. I have,
Oh, cool.
yes, like I went for my, I was feeling horribly, as you know, this past weekend, but when I got up, um, on Saturday, I was feeling bad on Friday. When I got up on Saturday, I went for a run, like I always do. I went for a run today, like that's how, and yesterday, like that's what I do. I'm not, I mean, we ain't FloJo, yet, but this is what we do, and it makes me feel really good. And so that's self care for me. I love a good candle, I love a good expensive candle. I love putting, some a good lotion on my hand before bed. These are the things, that I do where I pay attention to a lot of sensory things, for me, and just being very present. That's how I take care of, myself. And I think, um, again, mentioning with my parents no longer being here, I it has trained me to become very present in the moment,
Mhm.
because this is the lesson that I've learned, from them. And so, they're kind of like, delicious morsels. So if I'm here with you, we are all really busy, but if I'm here with you now, I'm here at 110%, and
Awesome.
that makes me joyous. And if I'm in a shitty meeting and my face is tingling, that's also why I got into skincare, because I'm like, my face is burning because I'm in you right now. You're making me mad. If I'm in a meeting and my face is tingling, I even am grateful for that. I'm very present, and I'm very grateful when we leave the room. So being very present is a form of self care too for me.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah,
So last question.
yes.
So as part of the 29 Days of Magic series, I had all my guests do a give or an ask. So if it's something you'd like to give to the audience, or something you'd like to ask to the audience or the universe, now's your shot.
Okay. Ooh, this is so much fun. So what I want to give the audience is, the audience can get in touch with me, and they are welcome to come to the shed anytime. You guys have an open invitation. We can talk about how to get in touch, but that is what I am giving,
Awesome.
to the audience, the ask of the universe. So, in this life, and what I'm looking for right now, definitely is the love of my life. So, we didn't talk about that component, girl. We ain't even gonna go into it. But that is the ask for this year. It's ending this year, having found this person, is the next thing. And I feel like I'm on the right track and I'm on the right path to that. But that's what I'm putting out there, is like lots of love, so that that can be returned, to me. And I don't know, is that hokey? Is that doofy,
No,
Laura?
that's wonderful.
Okay.
Did I not say it's out to the universe? Like, and also cosign, same with yours truly.
The
I,
universe, like, girl, that's a doofy ass. Okay, as long as it's
no,
not doofy. Okay, good.
it's true. You've got so much to give. You should get that back. And
Yes,
I think oftentimes Black women it's hard for us. And so like I said
yes.
I cosign because same boat, darling. So. So I,
I love it.
but also it is one of those things like again, if you had told me 3 or 4 years ago about saying stuff out loud and that sort of beginning the way to manifest stuff, I would have told you were being hokey and full of it. But I will say that in the last like 2 to 3 years, I have sort of started doing this, and it has come back to me in really
See?
unique and remarkable ways. It's like it's the same reason why this is happening. Like why we're having this chat. Like this was an idea that I
Yes.
had in my head, like the middle of January, and
So amazing.
I didn't think because as a marketer, I didn't market this correctly. I didn't go get a sponsor or like one of the interviews ahead of time. I just said, okay, here's something I'm gonna do, and I didn't really have an idea.
Yeah.
And then I went to dinner and I met like 15 Black women. So I was like, oh, well, well, I guess I should do this thing because like you all are here and you want to do it. And then I did it, and I reached out to a couple of groups that I kind of thought hadn't gotten the right shine, and I wanted to help. And that's all I kind of did. But if I hadn't have said it, and it wouldn't have come back. And then also, like I said, every single interview I've done for this entire month has been just phenomenal because I've learned so much.
Yeah.
I felt like I'm having a coffee class with everybody, and I'm super helpful to be a vessel for the women who've done the show because people need to know the things that people are doing, and it's a simple thing, and it comes out in a lot of remarkable ways. So I still have to say that, like, yes, manifest that man.
No, really. You're like, yeah, and it's definitely coming on the way. But but to that point, like, it's such a gift, like, because we're in these groups, right? And we have these touch points with each other that are limited. But when you have these kinds of conversations, you get to learn so much about each other, more than you could, through just having conversation in passing.
Right.
It's kind of like a lost art. And so, like, I love being able to learn or get into the depth of people and who they are and what they're about. And what you did is you're providing the opportunity, for that to happen. Which I love. It is a gift. I'm glad that you spoke it out in the universe, in the world, and then you were like, I'm just gonna do it. Because you're right. Like we started off saying, it's already February 7th, mother effing teen. Like, it's already 17 days into the year. I won't date this piece, but we're already moving, right? And so it's good that you put it out there and then you moved. It's a beautiful thing. I'm grateful to you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Of course, yes.
Well, definitely we could keep on talking for forever.
That's right.
And I'm gonna come to the shed.
Yes.
In the next couple of weeks. Cause I've been meaning to check it out and I keep forgetting. So I have a reason. So now we're coming.
Well, yes. And I am going to send to you, I'm going to put forth to the group, period, about the blackout night that I was telling you about. I'm going to put that out there. The blackout night is on March 15th. So hold down the date.
Okay.
And in that, it is specifically for influencers, for marketers, for our partners, etc. So I would love for you to be able to come. We're going to have a chat back with Claudia Rankin as well. We're looking at a couple of great, phenomenal people to do this chat with her. And then afterwards, there's going to be a reception. And so you are definitely invited. So you ain't going to feel the pressure of when to come, because an invite is going to show up to you so that you can do just that.
Awesome.
I want you there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I will follow instructions. Okay, madam. It has been a delight talking to you. I will put all the information about the chat in the show notes, and I'll even put the link to the New York City ID to remind you there as well.
Thanks, Laura.
I tried. And so that folks can find you, come check out the shed and see all the amazing programming that you guys are putting on over the course of the rest of the year. It's just been phenomenal. But thank you so very much for sharing.
Thank you.
Really incredible story. And that is our show.